Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today we'll try to install Azure Stack, the POC version TP3 on top of Azure. Actually, Microsoft have announced recently the availability of the nested virtualization on top of Azure, especially on the DB3 and EV3 family. What's nested virtualization? It's basically the ability to run virtual machines inside virtual machines using Windows Server 2016. So let's go ahead and go to Azure. Here we'll try to create a new Windows Server 2016 VM, and then we'll try to install Azure Stack on top of this VM. So let's go ahead and create a new virtual machine. We need to go to New, then Compute, and here we select Windows Server 2016. Let's name the VM. Let's select the password. Here for the size of the virtual machine, as mentioned here, we need to select the DB3 family or EV3 family to be able to have the nested virtualization enabled inside this virtual machine. So let's go ahead and click view all. And for the purpose of this demo, we'll select this virtual machine. 32 core 2256 gigabyte. Let's go ahead and click select. And we need to wait a couple of moments before having this VM ready for use. Again, here we can download the Azure Stack bits and start the deployment. We can double check the documentation to see the hardware requirement, etc. Here we can double check the prerequisite for the Azure Stack deployment, what number of cores would we need, what number of gigabyte of RAM do we need, etc. But there is a couple of tutorial how we play a little bit with the configuration file and change those hardware requirement, even if it's not recommended. Okay, our VM is ready now. We can start to connect and install the Azure Stack. So let's connect. So once we are inside, let's go ahead and run PowerShell as an administrator. And let's install Hyper-V with the management tools. So let's go ahead and install Windows features. The name it will be Hyper-V, and we want to include the management tools, and we will confirm restarting. It should take a couple of minutes, then the VM will restart and we'll have Hyper-V available inside our virtual machine running on Azure. Okay, now our VM is ready and we have Hyper-V and Hyper-V Manager installed inside this VM. So first thing we need for Azure Stack, we need to have the virtual machine running on this Hyper-V connected to internet. For this, let's go ahead and create a new Hyper-V virtual switch. For this, we need to run PowerShell as an administrator. Let's go ahead and create a new VM switch. Let's select a name for this switch name, for example, AZ stack switch, and we need to select the type of switch. For this tutorial, we need to select it as an internal. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, now let's go ahead and configure the virtual network adapter. For this, we need to do new net IP address, and we need to select an IP address for this one. For example, I will go ahead and select 12.12.1, and we need to select the prefix length. For example, we can select 24, and we'll select an interface alias for this one. For example, we can name it as the Ethernet of AZ stack switch. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay. Now let's configure the NAT rule. And we need to select the previous IP range. Okay, now if we want to access directly after creating the Azure Stack host VM, access directly through RDP to this VM, we can create NAT forwarding rule to access directly through RDP to this VM. So to do it, we need to add NAT static mapping, static mapping, and then we select the NAT name, which is this one that we created previously, and then we need to specify which protocol we will be using, TCP or UDP, and then we need to mention which IP addresses, external IP address will be listening on. So for our case, we'll be listening on all the IP addresses. Then we need to specify the internal IP address, which is the IP of the VM, which will be 172.12.12.12. And then we need to specify the internal port that will be forwarding to the traffic, which will be 3389, and the external port, which for example we can specify 3390. Let's go ahead and create this rule. Okay, it's done. So let's go back to Azure, and here on the network interface we need to go to network security groups and open this port. So let's go to the inbound traffic, they click on add, let's name it RDP AZ stack host, we specify 3390. So later to connect to, once this rule is created, to connect to this virtual machine, which is hosting the Azure Stack host virtual machine, we can specify the IP address, which is this one, on the port 3389 to connect to this virtual machine, and on the port 3390 to connect to the Azure Stack host virtual machine. So I believe it's everything from network perspective. Now let's go ahead and download the Azure Stack bits. Okay, so let's download this one. So let's run the exe. And before that, just we need to add some extra storage for our virtual machine to be able to add all the required disk for the Azure Stack. For this, let's go here back to Azure to disks, and here select create disk. I will name it data, and I will select 2 terabyte. Okay, we have added successfully the extra storage to our virtual machine. Let's go ahead and save. And while it's saving, let's go back to our virtual machine, go here to disk management. Our disk is ready. Let's go ahead and create a new volume from out of this disk. I'm okay with the F letter. Okay, it's ready now. We have our 2 terabyte. Let's go ahead and select where we want to download the Azure Stack bits. It will take a couple of minutes before completing the download. Uh, while we are waiting for the Azure Stack Developer Kit to download, let's go ahead and create a new virtual machine. So from the Hyper-V Manager, I will go here and create a new virtual machine. Let's name it AZ Stack Host, and make sure to store it on the F disk. Next, let's leave it Gen 1, and for the startup memory, for the moment I will give it 230 gigabyte. For the connection, I will make sure it's connected through our virtual switch that we created earlier. And let's leave it without hard disk for the moment. Okay, our VM is ready. Let's double check where we are. We still have 1 minute before having the Azure Stack Development Kit downloaded. I will forward it a little bit. Okay, it's almost done with the download of the Azure Stack Development Kit. It's done. Let's click here and open the bits. So we have the exe file. Let's run it. It will unzip all the content. So this one will take between 5 to 10 minutes. Let's fast forward it. Okay, now that we have our bits ready, let's go ahead and explore them. So here we have the Cloud Builder PHP disk. So here let's go to setting and attach it. So for that, let me adjust the virtual processor, and let's go ahead here and add our disk. So it should be here, and let's edit it. Make sure to expand it to 250 gigabyte. Okay, let's apply and let's go ahead and run it. Okay, let's configure the VM. I'm just changing my keyboard setting. And that's it. Now it should be ready. Let's connect. And let's fix the networking configuration. So here we have the option to configure the HCP server on the host or to do it manually. So for the sake of this demo, let's just do it manually. Let's go to adapter setting, and as you remember here When we created the rule, we selected as an IP for our VM 172.12.12.12. So just let's go here, properties. Okay, and we should be able to connect to internet. Let's just disable the Internet Explorer settings. So from the enhanced security configuration, let's just turn it off for the moment. And let's verify the internet connectivity. So for Azure Stack, we need internet connectivity on the host. It's working. Okay, so let's just turn it off, because for Azure Stack we need at least 4 VHDX fixed disk sizes or dynamic with at least 25 gigabytes for each one. So let's turn it off and go ahead and add those disks from Hyper-V Manager. So for this we can either do it manually or just let's create first the folder on F volume where we'll be storing our VHDX. So let's, for example, name it AZ stack disks, and here at least we need um, 4 disks. So we just let's for example create a disk since we have 2 terabyte. So for each $X in $disk C, what we're gonna do is create new VHD, and this VHD will store it on F AZ stack disk, and we will name it, for example, data $x.vhdx, and we can choose to have it dynamic. Fixed will take more time to have it created, and size bytes we said we need at least 250 gigabyte. Then what we will do is we'll add this VHDX to our VM name, and the name of our VM is AZ stack host, and we'll add our disk. Okay, let's run it. So now it's creating the disks and attaching them on our virtual machine. Okay, let's double check it. And here we have all our VHDs. Okay, last thing before starting working on our Azure Stack deployment, we need to make sure that nested virtualization is configured well on this virtual machine to be able to create after this virtual machines inside this virtual machine. So what we will do is there is an interesting script on GitHub which will make sure that we have our nested virtualization is well configured. So what we'll do is we'll invoke from GitHub web request to download this PowerShell file on our VM. Okay, and then we'll apply it on our virtual machine. VM name az stack host. Okay, it's saying that optionally we can enable MAC address spoofing. We'll say yes, please do it. And it's done. So now we are ready. Let's go ahead and start our virtual machine and connect to it. Okay, so our VM is on now, and if you remember when we were doing the configuration, we created a route to allow incoming traffic, to allow routing traffic from external addresses to this particular VM, traffic coming from 3390 to 33890. So what we can do now is just we close this and we'll connect through RDP to this IP address using this specific port. So let's connect. The default username for the Cloud Builder VHDX is administrator, and the password that we selected earlier. Okay, and now we are inside the virtual machine running inside Azure. So on this virtual machine, let's explore a little bit what we have. So on the C, we have cloud deployment, which have initial files available on this VM. So what we need to do first, we need to complete the deployment. So we need actually to run this PowerShell to download the rest of files. So let's go ahead and open PowerShell again as an administrator. Oops. And then what we need to do is let's navigate to this folder, cloud deployment setup, and let's run the Bootstrap Azure Stack deployment. It will take a couple of moments. Meanwhile, we can verify it started deploying other files to be able later to build the different virtual machines composing Azure Stack. So let's just wait for it. Okay, completed the deployment. So what we need to do now, actually Azure Stack POC is designed to run only on hardware machine, on physical hardware machines. So we need to tweak a little bit, a couple of files to be able to run on virtual machine. So what we need to do is let's go ahead and navigate to C, cloud deployment, then roles, then we need to go to physical machines, then we need to go to test and modify this bare metal PowerShell file. Let's edit it. So here we need just let's make there is a line verifying that this is not a virtual machine. So let's just search for it. Okay. So this line basically is checking if the host is a virtual machine or no. And the test is done on this particular line. So let's just modify modify it, and let's save. And then what we need to do, depending on the VM that you selected first when we created this on Azure, you maybe need to change the minimum cores uh, required by Azure Stack. So to do this, we have two places where we need to modify it. So on the same file, let's search on the requirement or on cores. Okay. So here we have validated the number of cores on each of the machines meet the required minimum. And here you can just replace this by 0. So by default it will be able to start the installation. Then actually Azure Stack have different XML files where we have the minimum configuration of the virtual machines, and to modify them we need to go to again see cloud deployment, but this time we need to go to configuration and then role, and we have two for the fabric and infrastructure. On each one we need to go to this file infrastructure, then we go to bare metal, and here we have the one node role. So here just let's go ahead and search for validation requirement. Okay, and here we will have the required the validation requirement. So for example here we can modify the number of cores for the host or for the machines, the minimum required RAM or disk, etc. So this is one place to modify them, and the second place where we need to modify, let's go ahead to roles and fabric, and on the fabric let's go ahead to virtual machines, again one node role, and here we will have the validation requirement per machine, the number of core, etc. So you can play and modify it depending on your virtual machine configuration. Okay, before moving forward, let's go ahead and verify our disk configuration. As mentioned earlier, we need at least 4 disks with uh, 250 gigabyte. In our case, we created, I think, 8 disks. So the disk should not be formatted. We should only initialize them. To do this, either you can do it manually or you can do simply get disk pipe initialize disk. It will initialize all the disks available on our VM. It's normal to get an error since we have some disk initialized already. Okay, we can double check here. Let's do a quick refresh, and all the disks are now online. So now we are ready to move forward. So at this moment, I think we are ready to start our Azure Stack POC deployment inside Azure. So what we need to do is let's go ahead, clear this for the moment, and we need to navigate to setup. So let's just list the different files that we have here, and we will run this this file. I will be running it. So let's install Azure Stack POC 1, and we need to specify the net IPv4 subnet for this, for at our case it will be 172.12.12.0/24. Then we'll specify the NAT IP v4 address. In our case it will be 12.12.223. Then we need just to specify the NAT IP v4 default gateway, and it will be 172.12.12.1. Okay, and we'll be able to run it. It will ask for our admin password. It will be pinging the different IP address to see if they are valid, used by other VM or no, etc. So once we will pass this step, the first thing it will be verifying the synchronization of the clock, and then it will ask for our Azure Active Directory global admin credential. Okay, now so we have finalized the time server synchronization. Azure Stack created self-signed certificate for external Azure Stack endpoint, etc. And now it's asking for our Azure Active Directory global admin in order to start the deployment of Azure Stack. So let's go ahead and connect with our tenant credential. Oops. And let's sign in. Okay, we are signed in, and let's start. So the overall deployment of Azure Stack, it will take between 2.5 hours and 3 hours. So basically it will start creating the different vSwitch internal switch for Azure Stack communication between the different virtual machines, and then you will start building the VHD for each virtual machine. The first thing you will start building the domain controller, and then SQL and the other component of Azure Stack, and at the end we will be able to connect to our administration portal. We'll fast forward it and go ahead to connect to our Azure Stack administration portal. So that's it. So now that we have finalized the installation of Azure Stack in the VM, went to different reboot, etc., let's go ahead and connect again to our host, Azure Stack host, which is a VM running inside Azure Stack VM. So we'll use the 3390 port, and at this moment we will be using the Azure Stack / Azure Stack admin, Azure Stack, which is the domain created by Azure Stack POC by default, and the Azure Stack admin is the administrator of the virtual machine. And we'll be using our usual password. Let's connect. And before going and playing a little bit with the administration in the user portal, let's go ahead and just double check the different VMs creating during the installation. Let's go to Hyper-V Manager. Okay, and those are the list of the VMs creating during the installation of Azure Stack. The different SQL, domain controller, etc. So let's go ahead and open the administration portal, which is basically the portal used to do things like creating offers, tenant, storage, etc. So it should be https admin portal.local.azurestack.external. Okay, and to log in, we should use our global administrator credential that we specified during the installation of Azure Stack. So that's it. This is our Azure Stack administration portal. And as you can see, we can create offers, plan, upload virtual machines, etc. And to log to the user portal, it should be https portal.local.azurestack.external. So that's it for our tutorial. We were able to deploy Azure Stack POC inside virtual machine running in Azure, taking benefit of our nested virtualization feature. In the upcoming tutorial, we will go a little bit deeper in terms of creating offer, installing the pass package, etc. So thank you for watching.